Okay, real estate time, 1984, which is the big reason why I'm excited to do this interview, is we're celebrating 40 years of being in the business. Your first year or two are with a local...
Just the first year. When I first started, I knew Bob Sharon across the street with Sharon Realty, and him and Iris Quinn were working over there. And so I said, Bob, can I join you? He said, oh yeah, sure. He knew me from the area, and so I started working with Bob in '84. The market was pretty slow then, really slow, and so I started working with him, knocking on doors, which I'd already been doing when I was selling my iron removers, and so I thought, well, I better get out and meet people. So I'd go out and knock doors 3 days a week, 4 days a week, all day long, and say hi to people. And I got a couple listings. George Wilsey gave me my first listing. It was a lot in Windsor Park for $9,000. He knew Jeanette and said, I better help Doug out because he's got, he's probably going to have some kids growing up, and we'll let him sell my lot. So I think I sold it for $9,000, a lot overlooking the lake, which is probably worth $350, $400 now. So
40 years later.
40 years later. So Bob said, okay, well, you're out running around, but you can sell anywhere you want as long as it's not Grand Bend, Southcott Pines, or anywhere that I want to list. And about the next week later, he listed a property right across from my house. And I said, oh, that's not very nice. So it wasn't too much. I think I worked for him like 6, 7 months, 8 months. And Don DeJong, who's doing the development across at Oakwood, he called me up. I don't know how we ran into each other. He says, I'm working with a Remax company, it's called, in London. He said, I know I've seen you around, and maybe you'd be interested in joining. So I went and talked to him and joined Remax that day. And I think I started with Remax, it could have been in March of '05. So I'd already... 95. So
or 85, sorry.
85. I worked with Bob no longer than I had. I figure if I can make $30,000 with Bob, I'll do well with Remax, because I couldn't sell in Grand Bend, Southcott Pine, any place that was worth anything. You can sell anywhere else as long as it's Port Franks and not Grand Bend. So we had a little office down on the main street of Grand Bend, and Doug Russell joined me. So it was Doug Russell and myself, and my broker was Leo Pertil with Remax Creative. So we had to go into London and take all our offers and listings. So we were in London a couple times, once a week at least. And so that was in, by 88 and 89, the market really picked up, 88, 89. But by that time, I'd already been knocking on doors and kind of surviving for a couple of years. I think the second year I got the 100% clobbered. It might have been third. And then 88.
But that was doing 100 and some odd ends?
No. In 88 I made had 131 ends. And,
yeah, I remember this.
In 89 I had 160. And if they would have did ends in Canada, I would have been did the most ends of anybody. And that was in 1989. And then in 1990 they started counting ends, and my productions went down, but because the market went down in 1990. 88, 89, the market was, we'd sell a house every other day, but I mean, I was selling lots for $10,000 for Philip Walden.
But it's still incredible. I mean, you think about a relationship, whether that house is $100,000, $50,000, $20,000. I mean, the paperwork, the calls, it's the same amount of work essentially. And you did it 130 times, 160 times, and back in those days when money was that much tighter and everything was a lot less value.
Like lakefronts, I think I remember selling my first lakefront. It was 88, 89. It was 200,000, and that's worth probably 1.5, 1.7 now. But in fact, the guy still lives in the one up the road. I talked to him not too long ago. He's still there. He forgot to leave. But so then by I was working with Remax Creative in London, and in 1990 the market did soften up, and 91 the guy who I worked with in London lost Remax Creative, so we had an office here in Grand Bend down where the dentist office is right now. In fact, it still has Remax on the laneway. And in 1990, so in 91 he lost it, basically lost his franchise, was going to fold up shop, so I bought the franchise. And all the office equipment for $400.
Perfect.
And we had to move because I think they had to sell the building. I should have probably bought that building, but we rented one. It was better for write-offs, just in the mall next to us here at 40 Ontario Street. And so I opened up Remax Blue Water Realty in 91. So.
And not only just 4 years later, I got some of Dad's career trophies here. We have from 95 was his broker owner of the year from Remax Ontario Atlantic with a population under 50,000. So only his 4th year of having his brokerage, he was able to secure that piece of hardware.
That wasn't a very good year either, 95.
He still persevered.
We still worked hard, and I've gotten a few awards, but it's actually your best award is selling the people the right house, making the people happy that sold their house. That's more fun than it's nice getting the hardware, but making people happy is really the best thing.
If you could tell I'm sure you have many things. What's your first thing that comes to mind in 40 years that you would tell somebody moving to this area? You've obviously loved this area to no end. You've continued to sell real estate here all your 40 years. What's the one thing, your sales pitch to somebody looking to move here? Why should they move here?
Well, it's certainly a pleasure living along the lakes, Lake Huron. Being along the lake, and especially when people came up from Toronto, finally, I said, well, there's no bugs here compared to, you get carried away with bugs up in the Muskoka. They said, it's a lot better place moving here. There's no bugs. The beaches are a lot sandier. It's not rocks. And, the beaches are nice, sandy, clean. The water's clean. You're close to the States living here. You can whip over to Detroit it's the Pinery Park really. A lot of people that live here don't really understand if it wasn't for that Pinery Park, this area would not be like this, because how many thousands of people come to camp in the Pinery Park? Well, that's where we live, so we're lucky to be here. Big
time. Dad was really involved. I don't remember there was many years that I played hockey. You weren't behind the bench. So really heavily involved in our community and our community sports, doing a lot of volunteering. Currently, you're with the Chamber of Commerce. I believe one of these awards might even be from that, but actually it's the Realtors Care Foundation that he got for your volunteer work with the windmills.
That was the Lynn Copeland Award, actually, probably.
What was the Realtor Care?
That's just a fellowhood. You donate $1,000.
Okay.
So when I was the president, they gave me.
Oh, that was something to do with the president.
Yeah, and that's homelessness, cared, food banks, shelters. Yeah.
Tell me about the Grand Bend Chamber of Commerce and all your guys' work there, because that's pretty important to support the entrepreneurs and everything in the area.
I joined that. I was wanted to get involved with Grand Bend a little more, get to know more people. The chamber's been, I've probably been there long enough, and I only wanted to be there for a couple of years, but it's like a lot of other things. You sort of get in there, can't get out. And so I think now I'm the president. I'm not sure how I even got that far, but it's good. It helps Grand Bend, helps the business people. It gets the businesses out, get to know each other. We have mixers that a lot of the business people get at. So it's kind of good to be in the chamber for that and give back to the community. But the other things I volunteered with originally with the Optimist Club that you were the president.
Mm-hmm.
I was with the Options Club like in the second year down at Port Franks. Like
Yeah, I think that'd be the 80s as well.
Yeah,
Like
that was
mid-80s, late 80s.
early 80s, and I didn't have a lot of time to go there and then all of a sudden you kids got into hockey, and I really didn't have time to go there because then I coached hockey. I was, I was pretty invested into coaching, and I was either the trainer, the manager, the assistant trainer, the coach, because like we had one night off a week, so you'd sell real estate all day, and then with the kids, and I mean the kids are more important than really selling real estate, that you want to try to help them and be with them. So that lasted for 4, 5, 6 years maybe, until I wasn't good enough to coach you guys, and you were getting older, and other coaches thought they could do a better job, and I wasn't going to argue with them. I was going to go sell real estate anyways. But it was, we spent a lot of time on the hockey rink. I was involved with London St. Thomas Association of Realtors for
You're the president.
10 years. I was the
president.
president in 2014, but I was involved in total about 10 or 11 years. I was the finance manager, finance chairman of the board for 2 years, and then I went through the board of directors and president-elect and past president. And we used to, when you're the past president, you're the PAC chair. That was kind of interesting because you go meet the member of parliament.
Yeah.
Whether it's provincially, we go down to Toronto for 3 or 4 days, and then federally, we go to Ottawa when you go to CREA, the Canadian Real Estate Association, and we go meet the members of parliament there. And the riding that we were in, Lambton, but I was with the London board, so that was Middlesex. But I would always go see Bev Shipley, who is a MP for our area, and talk with them. And
Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Yeah.
Or Lambton, Kent.
And back in those days, we were asking for that real estate could have precs, or corporations, because they originally weren't allowed to have corporations. And I think for the 3-4 years that I was on with the real estate board, that we go see the members, that's one of the main things we always talked about, is that we should be able to, just like insurance salespeople, they can incorporate and have that tax write-off. And finally,
5, 6 years ago.
5 or 6 years ago. So yeah, that took 10 years of asking MPs and MPPs.
What is one of your most notable, comical situations that happened in real estate in your 40 years?
I don't know. I don't remember anything really. Just some people.
Wild coincidences, or?
There seems to be a lot of. I don't remember anything that stood out. It was always like I used to go talk about wind turbines when they first came in here. In fact, that was one of the awards.
That's the one back
the
here.
Lynn Copeland Award. I got an award, or the RIA Award too. Was that for political activities? It's the other.
Yeah, I think it is this
No,
one. Realtor Care Award 2013.
No, it's the other one.
It's another one?
It's got a little clock on, but that was at AREA, because I'd go around to different towns and talk about the wind turbines in, how long ago was that? Yeah, 2014, 2013, 14, 15, somewhere in there, 14.
10 years ago or so.
Yeah, and when the wind turbines are going up, I did research, talked to a lot of people about land values, and I spoke in London, St. Thomas, Camlacky, up north towards
I remember you
Collingwood.
driving a couple 3 hours ago to do something.
Yeah, and I did that all on my own. The real estate board, they encouraged me and helped me, but so they acknowledged. They gave me some award that said I was a good boy and was involved.
And go on with your day.
Yeah, keep going, as if I didn't have enough stuff to do, but I did that. But I don't know, I can't remember a lot of really funny things that happened. They're weird things, other than a lot of transactions that probably you wonder what happened. But most of the time it was people, when they're out here looking for resort properties, especially, they're in a different mood than I'm looking for my house. I mean, people do come out here look. But a lot of people that are doing the recreational properties, I mean, they're pretty excited and you know, they're looking for something different than just their house. They're looking for, you know, a lifestyle, and so it's always fun working with them on that, trying to find them the right house. And you know, lots of times they come in and say, oh, like the people that are north of here that have that lakefront, that had to be 30 years ago, and they still call you and ask you, you know, or you run into them.
Yeah.
But I think the funniest thing really, since you guys joined me, is that, you know, people walk in or phone you up, and they dealt with me 20 years ago, and they said, oh yeah, is your dad still around? And
Yeah.
fortunately, yeah, I'm still around. But to have those people come back and say, you know, we liked what happened, and
It's your greatest compliment.
yeah, and really it hurts you when you help somebody and they sort of go somewhere else, and you go, you know, what did I do wrong? But you know, if I worried about all those, I wouldn't have any hair. Oh wait, I don't have any hair. But no, I think helping people is the best fun. And working with you guys the last 10, 12 years has been a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Well, it's been a lot of fun working with you, and there's been lots to learn. 40 years, I always commend you at your age, how well you do with technology and how much our technology keeps changing, and somehow you keep getting to know it better than we do, quicker. And so I always commend you how quick you adapt and take on new technology. I think a lot of people can take that stuff and let it bog them down and, you know, give up and say, I'm getting out of the business, where you've always tackled it. What do I got to do? And figured it out. So I applaud you there. What is one technology that you said, hey, in 40 years, I am so grateful that came around?
Well, when I was in grade 10, I took a typing class.
Well, there's the start of the technology for you.
And so, you know, when the computers came around, I had to learn how to type. I knew how to type, where a lot of people, I remember working with Bob Sharon originally, go, you know, one finger at a time. And
Yeah.
I know the keyboard. So really something I took when I was in grade 10.
Paid off big time.
Paid off. And
Even in Parkhill, they had a school in grade 10.
they had a school in grade
Or
10.
had a school,
A
had
typewriter.
a computer, I mean. Had a computer.
Wasn't a
Oh, it was
computer.
a typewriter.
Oh, yeah, it was a real
Okay,
typewriter.
gotcha. That makes more sense.
And I remember just when I bought the franchise, computers came out, and it was a toss-up whether we were going to get a better electric typewriter or get a computer. And the computers were really archaic, like I forgot what 364s or 460. They weren't very much, so we opted for an electric typewriter because you could write faster. It showed you what you're typing, the girls that were working, and so we didn't actually get a computer for about a year after that, because they were kind of, and this is like 1991. The computers were just coming out, and
Holy.
so that then yeah, even the faxes, like, you know,
Yeah, fax machine.
because originally we had to drive everything into London, and I remember Leo coming out and saying these thermal fax machines that printed out, and so you just put a page in it, print out at the office in London. So you didn't
Pretty cool.
did that, but you had to photocopy them, or else they'd all fade because they were like a thermal paper. And the earliest thing, I still remember Gary Lusk that was down in Forest, and I still remember him, the first offer I remember seeing somebody write was on his car, hood of his car. It was on paper that you had to put those little black carbon copies.
Okay, yeah.
And it was push hard, there's 3 copies.
Yeah.
So when you wrote through the offer, you had, just like our forms today, kind of, you had to fill them out, but they were carbon paper that you did it on. You gave one to the buyer, one to the seller, and took one to the office. So.
And the original was the top one, because that was the only one you could really read.
Yeah, that wasn't very, I didn't do too many of those, but.
The old
lot of
MLS books.
Oh gosh.
You tell me about this every now and then. Why don't you tell me about the old MLS books?
Yeah, the MLS books. In London, they had little books that they made with Sterling Print, which is a London company. And they would, every listing was about that big. Little picture of the house, the details, the price, the taxes, the whole listing was that big. And So if somebody, and the book was like that thick, of which that much was relevant to me because it was all London.
Right.
And I was sort of, I decided to join the London board, even though I'm technically, our office is in the Sarnia board, but we're also in the Huron board. The Huron board went down to Greenway. And so we're actually in the Huron board, not Sarnia, in the Huron board, but the Sarnia board was down the street and London's in Greenway. So there's all three boards coming at. So if you work south of here, you had to know all the Sarnia stuff. And if you're north of here, it was the Huron stuff.
So you've been dealing with what
we're still dealing with
since day one.
Since day one. So I used to always complain about that. But the books would come out every other week. I think every other week. So every year you'd have 100 books, or maybe once a month. They were about that thick, and every other week they come out. So they would all get delivered to all the office with all the listings. That's the only way you could see the listings.
And would you, if you had a listing and it was still available when the second book came out, you would keep putting it in the book?
It'd still stay in the book.
Stay in the book until it's sold?
Yeah, it'd stay in the book till it's sold. So
how would you know what something sold for back then?
Yeah, they would have sales in the book.
They would have the sales in the same book?
They would have sales in the same book when they sold for that next issue and show what it sold for.
Neat, okay.
I believe.
Yeah.
Because what I used to do is cut the listings out and make my own book for different areas.
Right.
I might even still have it, but I'd put like all the listings at Grand Bend, I'd cut them out, put them in little pages so I knew what they were, Port Franks, different areas around, and then I'd put what they sold for, and then I'd put them in another book. Here's all my solds.
Like your own little craft book of listings.
Yeah, but it was
and trying to make it look professional when you open it up to a client.
So people come in. People come in and say, "What's for sale?" We give them,
and you'd open your craft book.
No, last month's book and throw it at them and say, "Here, go look." But that you were supposed to give those books away. But I know over in our Exeter office, they might still be there. Marlene had 3 cupboards full of books, MLS books. Most of the book wasn't even relevant. So, but the listings that you wanted to know, so they'd be in my book that I had. And if somebody called me on a listing, I would know. But it might have already been listed for 2 weeks, and you wouldn't know it.
Right.
There was no MLS as far as like Realtor.ca. There's no internet, so you couldn't go on the internet. So yeah, it was pretty. The saying always used to go, you list to live and you sell. That's okay, but if you don't have the listings,
still like
that. So I'd go out and when I first got started, as I said before, I would always be out door knocking. In fact, I'd go and hand out flyers. When I listed something, I'd make 50 copies and go around the subdivision with 50 copies with a lot of times one of my kids.
Yeah.
Just listed like little flyers we'd make up and go door to door and say hi to people. And
you earlier touched on selling a lifestyle, and Mom and Dad have owned the cottage. This is the power of grandkids, is they owned this cottage for 30 years. Mark had 3 beautiful little girls, Mark and Robin. And by the time about the twins were 3 or 4, they decided to tear the cottage down that I so much wanted to stay many a weeks at in the summer. But it had to be a rental at the time. So it's been a new experience for our own family to have our own cottage property that we just stay at. It was always a cottage for an investment side of things forever. What has been your experience now that you have your own cottage? You can go to any time, the kids go to any time. How's that been? And
yeah, it's been good. I mean, we don't live very far from it. What is it, 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes? But it's nice to have a place that the family could meet at and be together. And I think most cottages start out, that is the idea, that people can come and see us. And it goes south when the kids bring 20 kids with them, or everybody that comes and sees you all the time, and all you do is work all the time. And you can take a few years of that and you say, forget it, I don't want this. But most people, they buy the cottage for the family, and with our own cottage that we have now. That we had the other one for 32 years. I bought it for 120.
Well, tell the story. You sold it the year before.
Yeah. Well, the cottage that we bought, I sold.
Learn from Doug.
The cottage was in 89, 89, 90, somewhere around there. I think it was 80, 87, 88, 87, 88. And the market, 88 and 89 went up, but it was 87. And I sold it for 65,000. It was the cottage. It was, you know, it needed painting. It was rusty red, res red, I think is what they called it.
Sure.
And, you know, it was an old Viceroy, I think, from the 50s. And so 2 years later, they said, oh, we want to sell it. I said, oh, you know, the market, 89, the market was good. As I said, I'd sold quite a few cottages, so I thought, oh, I'll buy it. So I think I paid 120. I think I sold it to them for 60 or 65, and either a year or 2 years later, I paid twice as much.
In the 80s, late 80s, early 90s.
Late 80s,
so.
no, late 80s, because the 90s, the market went sort of a little bit south for a while. And, yeah, so we paid twice as much. So that's always the way you do it. You sell it cheap, you buy it too much. But and back in
And then here's my second part to that. Do you regret buying it for double the price as the guy a year and a half,
Oh,
or
no.
2 years before?
No.
35 years later, do you regret it?
Oh no, it's still a great investment.
You know, and I think that's, you know, sure, it can feel sick to the stomach at the time thinking about what if, but if you always think about the past, I think that's a depressing mind thought.
Yeah.
It's what do you like now? What fits you now? Do you have the money now? And if it fits you, it fits you. Put the glove on and wear it and enjoy it.
Yeah, so we bought the cottage and I think we bought the apartments all that year in '89 too. I had apartments down in Port Franks that you guys just bought, so.
Well, this is another great story of Dad's investments. Is why don't you tell them how you bought the apartments?
Well, I had a friend, Bruce Jackson, called me up. He said, we're trying to buy these apartments off of Ailsa Budzovic. And she used to own a restaurant where the Pinery Baptist Church was her restaurant. And so she, her husband had passed away, and she had owned this 10-plex behind Groggs with 8 acres of land. And she had gone to Bruce Jackson and another guy that was his friend. And he's still around. He got into selling real estate a little bit too. But anyways, they wanted to buy this place. And Bruce said, well, Doug, you come on in and you buy it with us. I didn't realize they'd already been talking to one of the other agents in my office and about buying this hotel. So I said, good, I'll come in it. How much money do you need? Blah, blah, blah. And it was, he says, well, if you just throw your commission that you're going to make selling this, you'll get a third ownership. So don't take any commission, just sell it. And so I think they both had to put in 10 or 11,000 at the time. And I put in my...
So that was the down payment.
Yeah, it was 210,000. And so 2 4s, yeah, so it was 5-6%, so 4 8s. Yeah, like it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 of my commission I put in. And so then...
Since 3 years, you
so
bought
I
both
became,
of them out.
I became 1/3 owner of it with nothing. I might have put $1,000. I didn't know if I put that in. But they looked after it, and I just said, I'll keep out of it until I realized that for some reason we weren't making any money at this place. So the one guy, he jacked all the rents up because the rents were they were really low because Elsie didn't need the money.
Didn't need the money.
And she took back financing because at the time we bought them it was 18% financing rate, or 16 or 18, and she took it for 12%. We paid 12% interest on it. And so it would just make enough money with the rents to pay the interest and the taxes. And there's a few bucks left over for fixing up light bulbs and that. So as long as it broke even, it was great. So
Yeah.
then Bruce, with the interest rates being high, Bruce wanted out. And we just paid him what he put in, the 11,000 back. So there's another guy, Tony, that was involved with it. And he a year or so later he was going broke because in the early 90s, the market, some of the investment stuff was with the high interest rates. So I think I had to end up paying him $45,000.
So within 3 years, this investment you didn't know you wanted, you now owned it all.
Yeah.
And 30 years later is worth nearly $1 million. So that's a pretty good investment that fell upon you.
Yeah. So over the years, it would always make enough money to pay for itself. We did some improvements to it. We went and renovated. We've renovated all the units except one because she didn't want to move out.
Yeah.
She's still in there and it's still not renovated. And, we painted them and
yearly leaf cleanup as a big
yeah,
family. And
but so it was a good investment, and most of the tenants there were pretty good. We didn't have too many problems with them, so it was good.
You brought up one thing there was interest rates. Obviously, interest rates are the talk buzzword of real estate right now. What is the highest interest rate you ever paid in your life?
12.
Okay, so you actually didn't
12,
do too bad.
We might have paid 14 when we bought our house, but even at 14%, the house was 60,000.
Sure,
It wasn't 700,000 or 800,000.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe the money, we weren't making as much money, but the interest rates. But a lot of times, like with Elsie, it was vendor takebacks. It is the only way you could ever sell commercial because you couldn't get financing on that.
Yeah.
So we paid her.
The numbers didn't make sense.
No, the number. So we paid her, enough that she could live. I think it was $1,800 a month we had to pay her, and then one time she wanted to buy a car. She says, "Can you get me another 40,000?" I think she's buying it.
You're like, I don't know if this is how it works, but okay.
Yeah. So I said, no problem. So we did refinance a little bit, and we got her some more money. She bought a new car, and then she lowered the rates down to 10. And we thought we were in heaven, and then finally near the end, we were down to 8%, which is, that was good. And it could pay for itself. That was the main thing.
I think we're wrapping up here shortly, but I think the one thing when I was picking out these awards, Dad, was all of them are what you've done in real estate, not financially, but what you put in. What's the right word? With the love of your heart and your love of the industry, and what it's showing and coming through. And this was actually the coolest, the most recent one, I should say. I'll let you know if it's you say if it was the coolest one or not. But this was the Canadian Founders Award, and Dad and another recipient were the third and fourth recipient ever to get this from RE/MAX Canada in 2023. So we went down to Las Vegas where they hold the international conference, and that was a really cool moment. We actually surprised Dad with it.
Because we weren't going to go because we went the year before.
And so we told Dad that there was us three, we were getting some big team award recognition, and so this was pretty cool to surprise Dad with this when we got down there.
I think you said you were getting an award, or Mark was
Mark, I think maybe you said Mark.
Mark was getting an award,
Yeah.
so I had no idea. Walked in there, and this is for...
all of Canada.
For all of Canada, yeah. That was the appreciation of being part of RE/MAX.
And everything you put into it.
Yeah. So it was a pretty nice award.
So, is there anything more you want to say about your 40 years? It's pretty incredible.
No, you guys,
astonishment.
It's nice having the next generation working with you, and you'll carry on, do a great job, I'm sure.
I love you, Dad. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And thank you so much. And we'll be releasing this in a few different segments. And stay tuned for more to come out. And we hope you guys got something out of it and learned a couple things about Dad. That's just the top of what to know about Doug. I'm sure if you sit down and make him a Ryan diet, he'll tell you a few more stories. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks.